Welcome, Jamie Hartley here again from Crossfader, and today we're going to have a look at how to set up Serato DJ for use with either CDJs or turntables. For this you're going to need a Serato DJ compatible sound card. Rain offer the SL2, SL3 and SL4, and there's also the Denon DS1. Today we're going to use my trustworthy SL3. It's been with me for around 7 years. Let's have a look at how to set up Serato DJ for use with CDJs or turntables. So let's take a closer look at the Rain SL3 first of all. We've got the inputs and the outputs. The inputs is where the turntables or CDJs will be plugged into. The outputs is where the mixer will be plugged into. We've got a USB here which will connect to our laptop, enabling us to actually DJ with this. It also powers the sound card itself, so you don't need an external power supply. However, on the SL3 there is the option to have the external power supply. This will just allow you to not have your laptop plugged in but still be able to use the CDJs as normal. The last thing to note is we've got a few switches situated here, and this indicates to the sound card whether we're using CDJs or turntables. The key for that is here. Phono up means you've got turntables plugged in, line down we're going to be using CDJs. These we will switch and allocate dependent on what we are using. For comparison, have a little look at the Denon DS1. We've got the inputs and outputs as normal, we've got the USB to connect to the laptop, we've also got the phono and CDJ switch up and down there to indicate which we're going to be using. We now need to take our RCA cables and plug them into the outputs. Red into red and white into white. We're going to do this for both the left deck and the right deck, ready to be plugged into the back of the mixer. We can then take our right deck RCA cable out of the back of the mixer and plug it into the right deck input on our Serato box. Once we have done that, we will need to replace what we've taken out of the back of the mixer with the RCA cable currently plugged into the right deck output on the Serato box. We should now have the right deck plugged in, ready to go. We can now repeat the process for the left deck, which is our turntable, taking it out of the phono source on the back of the mixer and plugging it into the left deck input on our Serato box. We then need to replace our left deck output from the RCA cable plugged into the output on the Serato box into the back of the mixer. Now I'm not going to go back into phono where the turntable is currently plugged in. I'm going to go into any digital source. I like to choose channels 2 and 3, so I'm going to go into CD line on channel 2. Just make sure that the source on top of the mixer correlates to where you have plugged into on the back of the mixer. Also make sure, if you're using turntables, to switch whichever channel to the phono position. In this instance, channel 2 is our turntable, so I need to switch channel 2 up to activate phono. If you have the Denon DS1 or the Rain SL2, you can only choose either turntables or CDJs for all channels. For this example though, I have one of each, and the SL3 will allow me to play one on CDJ and one on turntable. Now that we have our RCA cables plugged into the mixer and our CDJs and or turntables, we need to plug the USB into the USB slot. Square end here, flat end here. Then insert your Serato control signal either into the CDJ or place your control vinyl onto the deck. If you are moving from a controller setup using Serato DJ to a DVS setup using either turntables or CDJs, there are a few things that are going to be a bit different. The first thing is we have a few different modes to be aware of now. The modes are situated here and here for each channel. We can change these modes depending on what setup we would like to use. ABS, short for absolute, means it will work off wherever the absolute position of the control vinyl is. So for example, if you are 2 minutes into the control signal, you will be 2 minutes into the track. If I move the control signal somewhere else, it will correlate to its absolute position. Something to note though, this is just like playing tracks off a USB on CDJs. To cue the track back up, we will have to go back to the start of the control signal and find the first beat, setting our cue point here. All of the cue features and loops will disappear. They are not accessible within absolute mode and won't work. This is where you will now need to use relative mode. This allows us to then use the hot cues as normal, set loops as normal, and actually utilize all of the creative features within Serato DJ. Something to bear in mind though, is it doesn't matter what position the control signal is at, all of the controls are now controlled within the software itself, and all we need to do is make sure that the control signal is continually playing. If we cue the control signal back up, it's not going to go back to the start of the track. We have to use the hot cue to do that. The last of our three modes is the through mode. This basically bypasses any box that you have set up, whether it be the Rain or the Denon. It allows you to play tracks off a USB, off a CD, or even a vinyl. Turn it back off through mode, and Serato is now back in play. Something else to be aware of is the scopes. These can be found within the setup in Serato DJ. Because this is an SL3, we have 3 decks available to calibrate. These scopes will give information about how the control signal is reacting with Serato and allows you to troubleshoot any problems you may have. When you play the control signal, you will notice the scope appear. You can change the balance of the scope. Ideally, you want a perfect circle. If you're using turntables, you may find it easier to scratch by moving the noise sensitivity towards the left and having it around -60, -50, somewhere around here. It will allow you to be much tighter when it comes to scratching. There is loads more information on the Serato DJ website about the scopes, and if you have any problems about troubleshooting what the cause may be. Something else to watch out for is when it gets near the end of the control signal, Serato will automatically jump onto internal mode. You'll have to then restart your control signal from the top, automatically allowing Serato to take back control again. A few last things to be aware of. Make sure if you're using CDJs that the master tempo is turned off, and also that the RCAs in the back of the CDJ are in the right way round. That's red into red, white into white. If they are the wrong way round, this reverses the signal, making the track then play backwards. Another option to consider is to look into Serato Club Kit, which allows you to take your USB and plug it directly into a handful of mixers. All details of this are available on the Serato DJ website. Check it out. It's good to have both options.